The barrier of improving corner exit drive is one of the most common that riders seek help with, and it's also one of the most difficult to overcome too. In this video, I want to offer you an avenue for corner exit improvement that's a little easier to tackle, and one that for many of you could mean significant improvement, possibly without going any closer to the traction limits than you already are. Sound too good to be true? Stick with me. When it comes to improving corner exit drive, the default course of action for most riders is to think, how can I grow bigger testicles and use more throttle? On the face of it, it makes sense. If you drive harder and earlier than you did before, you'll make up time, right? Well, yes, but this approach comes with its own set of drawbacks. The trouble with this course of action is that a lot of time the rider's line through the corner won't lend itself to simply being more brave with the throttle. This is because many riders will be steering into corners too early, creating a shallow entry line, and this leaves them stuck at high lean angle way past the apex as they work to get the bike pointed up the track, meaning they're also stuck on the throttle. They're stuck because subconsciously they can see that the bike isn't correctly pointed in the direction they want to go, and if they were to increase throttle and or stand the bike up to begin their exit drive, they would find themselves running too wide, or in some cases testing traction limits a little too much. However, that does not stop them trying, and in an effort to improve in this area and thinking that they just need to grow a pair, they begin increasing throttle input earlier and earlier, sometimes before they've even been able to begin standing the bike up. But this is dangerous because lean angle and throttle application are indirectly correlated. What that means is that you cannot significantly increase throttle application until you reduce lean angle. So not only is the riding plan going to cause unwanted line changes and possibly cost more time, it can be pretty dangerous too if the rider is a little too eager with their right hand. So what's the better approach for exit drive improvement? Like I said, often riders will be using a line that restricts their exit. This being the case, just by altering their entry line, which has the biggest impact on exit line, they will begin to open up the exit. With the exit opened up, the rider can now pick the bike up earlier, which then allows them to drive harder. When learning riders are looking to improve corner exit, the first question shouldn't be, how can I be more brave and accelerate harder at higher lean angles? Instead, you should ask, can I open up the exit so that I can pick the bike up earlier? Do you see the difference? One option is causing you to go much closer to the limits of traction to gain time, whereas the other is simply changing your approach to make better use of your existing skill as well as the space that you have to play with. That second option is not only safer, but it's likely going to gain you more time than simply trying to begin exit drive one bike length earlier while still on the side of the tyre. That being said, eventually you do have to step into the unknown. Now, I fully appreciate that there are still times when you're going to have to put trust in the bike and push into an unknown area as you work to use more of the tyre's potential during your exit acceleration. For instance, novice riders will often wait for the bike to be completely upright before significantly increasing throttle application, and a better line into and out of the corner isn't likely going to make a big difference for a rider like that. Also, towards the other end of the scale, once a rider learns good lines, they will then have to start using more available rear end traction if they want to see improvements, meaning once again pushing into the unknown. In my experience, however, across a large section of any track day paddock and through all three groups, you'll find riders that could benefit from better lines at corner exit, which is why I'm making you aware of it here. During my early track riding years, I rode a 2004 Yamaha R6, and getting past the first handful of track days, I eventually developed to a point where I was able to use significant power around the middle of my leaning range. However, it wasn't until I learned how to better open up the exit that I saw sizable gains compared to those around me. And this wasn't exclusive to my time in the novice or intermediate groups. Even through the time I rode that bike in the fast group, I could see that I was making up time at corner exit on a large portion of the group, even on the bigger bikes, simply by using better lines. And that progress came without any huge improvement to my braveness with the throttle over that time, and it showed me that putting myself in a position to stand the bike up earlier is what was key. The first 5 or 10% of exit throttle at high lean angle doesn't make the difference at that level. Being able to get the bike up off the side of the tyre so that you can use the remaining 90 to 95% does. So how do you know if you need to change things? Well, for a healthy majority of the corners, you should be able to start picking the bike up from around the apex. And if you feel like you're stuck on the throttle way past the apex and you're losing time to those around you, first consider a change in entry line to open up the exit. What this typically means is to simply start steering later into the corner. A later entry point will alter your approach line to the apex, meaning the bike will be pointed up the track earlier than it is with a shallow entry line. This allows for an earlier bike pickup, and it's picking the bike up which facilitates exit drive. Now that change is naturally going to affect corner entry, possibly in a negative way depending on what you're doing, but getting into the permutations of each approach and corner is a little out of the scope of the message I'm trying to give here. The main message here is that if you're a rider that's still learning the ropes and corner exit is an area you want to improve, look at your current corner entry plan and how you can better open up the exit to allow for an earlier bike pickup, not simply for the existence of a brave peel, because unfortunately the latter doesn't exist. And changing your approach like this could likely have you making very pleasant and sometimes easy improvements to your corner exit drive. Okay, that wraps up our look at an easier route for corner exit improvement. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the button and share it with others. And if you'd like to see more content like this, then subscribe to the channel for more performance riding guides and advice moving forward. Outside of that, I'll see you in the next one.